and let us all do we can to build a better future.
There's an intensified rush of censorship and suppression that is happening currently in American politics. And right now, there has been reports and links on social media indicating that the Democratic Party and organizations associated with the Democratic Party or Democratic Party adjacent are trying to remove Robert F. Kennedy Jr. from the ballot. Now, look, I've made it very clear on this show. I'm not going to vote Democrat, but I will be following both the Republican and Democratic primaries because, let's face it, we are in the year before the election year of 2024, and it's important for us to monitor this and talk about it. And yes, Hardlands Media will be covering the Democratic Convention here in the city of Chicago in 2024. These are important, newsworthy events. But another reason why we are talking about this is because, again, we are seeing the Democratic Party or organizations associated with the Democratic Party trying to dictate to voters who they can and cannot vote for. Now, again, if you're running in the Democratic Party, good luck. The game is rigged from the start. You're not going to win it. RFK Jr. supporters. Here's the thing. You're going to want to monitor, write down, video record, and keep a detailed analysis of notes of what's going to be happening to you guys in each of the different 50 states. The DNC is going to be using its full weight and power to make sure that RFK loses every single primary. They're going to do everything they can to make sure that he is not accessible on the ballot. So you're going to want to keep your heads on a swivel and fight, fight, fight. I do hope that he does make it all the way to the convention. Maybe it'll be a contested convention. Who knows? I'm being too idealistic here, and I don't want to go say anything further because then I'll be just speculating and giving my opinions and thoughts with no proof or evidence. But here's the real truth. Sabrina, Sappy Sabs, again, who does phenomenal work on Revolutionary Blackout Network and so much more, recently was on the Hill talking about how there are organizations that are trying to get RFK Jr. off the ballot. And I think it's important that we talk about this because if we don't, then we have learned nothing from 2016 and 2020. Again, case in point why I'm not going to vote Democrat. But let's play this video. And again, shout out to Sabrina for being on Rising on the Hill. She's doing great work. If you're not following her on social media, what the heck's wrong with you? Please do it right away.
But that text message did come through. A number of people have received that text message as well. And I think everybody should be concerned, whether you support RFK Jr.'s campaign or not. Who were they to tell you to kick someone off of the ballot? So this is very concerning.
Certainly, and it's deeply undemocratic. I mean, this is the nomination to figure out who's going to be the Democratic Party's candidate. What is the DNC, what is the Biden camp afraid of? Are they actually afraid of this challenge from RFK Jr.? Is this evidence of that?
I believe so. Unfortunately, a lot of the Democrat politicians that have been heavily preaching about protecting our democracy, which I would argue we don't have a real democracy, but those individuals actually just want you to vote for the candidate that the Democratic Party has selected. And the candidate that they've selected is Joe Biden. They believe that just because he's already sitting in the Oval Office, that we should just hand over re-election to him and that he should not have any type of challenge, whether it's from the Democratic Party or third party or independent. And that's really unfortunate, but this is how this game works. And I think hopefully more people will wake up to this and push back against the Democratic Party for being, trying to do this and being so vocal about it early on. It shows you that they're very much afraid that Joe Biden could lose.
I want to pause it right here, and I'll just give my short commentary on this. How many reports do we need to keep on doing on this show? But how many reports does everyone in independent media have to keep on doing the same report? The Democratic Party is afraid. They're afraid because they know that people see that Joe Biden is not mentally or physically fit. Now, if this triggers vote blue no matter who, okay, then fine. Explain to me in detail why we should overlook Joe Biden stuttering all over the place, rambling, looking like a confused old man. Why should we be dismissive about the fact that he's falling down? Why should we be dismissive of just the way he carries himself? He doesn't project strength, confidence, or anything else that you would want from a leader of a global superpower. Let's face it, the United States is a global superpower, and the executive, the commander-in-chief of our nation, looks like a senile old man. There's no way to sugarcoat. So vote blue no matter who, people. Tell me, what is it about Joe Biden that should convince voters that we should give him a second chance? Because there's a lot of things people are saying that he's done good on. But on the other hand, are you not paying attention? Look at all the things that he's failed on and failed to follow through on. And anyone that was supposed to hold his feet to the fire, you never did the job. So Democrats, look, you used the fear tactics in 2016. We got to vote for Hillary or else Trump. We got to vote for Biden or else Trump. 2016 through 2020. Again, the fear tactics, people are tired of it. And I know what to expect from a Trump presidency. I truly do. And I don't want to see that man get elected again. But guess what? At least he's kept his following and base together. And this is not an endorsement of Trump, but in comparison to Democrats, he didn't abandon his people. He's able to get thousands upon thousands, tens of thousands of people to show up at his events. Democrats, there was a point in time when you guys used to do that, but now the donations are drying up. The attendance is far, far lower. And people are not inspired by the quote-unquote squad or progressive Democrats or even Bernie Sanders anymore. So tell us, again, Democrats, why should we support you guys? Especially now the fact that, again, the DNC is showing its true colors. You are trying to get RFK Jr. off the ballot. And yes, these are various other independent organizations, but a suspicious mind should ask us. Those organizations that want RFK Jr. off the ballot, what are their ties to the Democratic Party?
A re-election. But I think people need to understand we have to start looking at solutions in reference to this type of situation. There are two things that you can do. Number one, you can stop doing their bidding. Stop voting for the candidate that they select and tell you you should vote for just because that person fits the status quo and is backed by Wall Street and the military industrial complex. And two, for those of you that live in states that are ballot initiative states, you should run BI measures to publicly finance elections. Now, this is something that needs to start at the local level because in 2010, the Supreme Court ruled that corporations are people that are entitled to buy elections. So we're going to have to start working on this locally. But at the end of the day, the Democratic Party selects the candidate that they want, and anyone who goes outside of that status quo, they'll do whatever they can to make sure that they don't win. Look at what happened during the Democratic primary debates in 2020. Throughout the debates, they changed the rules so that some candidates could be removed, like Tulsi Gabbard, and so that the candidates that they want could join, like Mike Bloomberg. Oh, we don't have a real democracy. If we had a real democracy, third-party candidates wouldn't have to fight so hard to get on the ballot. They wouldn't be trying to kick people off of the ballot. You know, it's really a disgrace. Here it is 2023, and this is the way our political system operates.
For sure.
Again, everything that Sabrina said is the absolute truth. We don't have a real democracy. Third parties, Green Party, Libertarian parties have to struggle to get on the ballot and, dare I say it, potentially even get on the debate stage. Just a short story from the early days of Hard Lens Media. When we went to cover a debate that was supposed to take place for a local Cook County office, there was a Democratic candidate, there was a Republican candidate, and yes, there was a Libertarian and Green Party candidate. However, the Libertarian Party candidate and the Green Party candidate were barred from attending that debate. And when we went to confront the two lawmakers who were Republican and Democrat and asked them, how come you're not willing to have this debate with these other two candidates? They were like, we have to follow the process. We have to follow the rules. We have to do this and that. But here's the thing. The rules are designed for Democrats and Republicans only. In Illinois, I've explained in detail just how draconian my state is, and there are other states that are just as draconian, or dare I say it, even far, far worse towards third parties. And now we are also seeing firsthand again the Democratic Party revealing its true colors. They don't want anyone to think for themselves. You, the Democratic primary voter, are not a priority. In fact, you're only getting a participation trophy by being part of the Democratic primary because the DNC is going to rig it. The delegates, the super delegates, the people in charge of the DNC are going to pick who they want. They're not going to have you make the decision for them. That's not how this works, especially in this neoliberal system. The Democrats are in control. That's how it works. That's how it's going to be. So RFK Jr. being attacked by these organizations should be a huge, huge red flag. I want to pull up this video of Case Study QB where, again, RFK Jr. discusses his time being on Capitol Hill, where he was being potentially censored or was going to be censored by the Democrats when he was giving his testimony. So again, look, the Democratic Party wants to project an image that they want voters to be suckers for. Now, again, I wish RFK Jr. all the best in his campaign, but I don't think it's going to turn out the way a lot of his supporters want it to be. Look at what they did to Bernie Sanders in 2016 and 2020. And to be fair, Bernie Sanders only cucked out. He didn't push back. But look what they did to Tulsi Gabbard. At least Tulsi Gabbard has the courage and the strength to actually talk about the Democratic primary of 2020 and how the whole system is rigged. Hell, she even talks about what happened in 2016 too. Let's play this video here. Just play a few short minutes of it. Again, huge shout out to Case Study QB. Please be sure to follow him on social media. He does phenomenal work. Let's play it.
2024 Democratic presidential candidate Robert F. Kennedy Jr. joins me. Nice to see you.
Good to be back, Greta.
Okay. Anti-Semitism. It's a terrible thing. I've got family members who are Jewish, and it pains me immensely. I believe it exists, but there's not one bone in my body that thinks you're anti-Semitic. And I just want to tell you that. Not one bone in my body.
I appreciate that. And I said this under oath today because I'm so angry at those charges. In my entire life, I have never uttered a single anti-Semitic phrase, word, anything, or racist. And, because of my family and because I've spent a lot of time in Israel and I have an organization over there, my support for Israel is stronger than anybody in Capitol Hill. I'm the only one who's demanded that Biden retract the $2 billion payment that he's giving to Iran, which is, going to be used for genocidal purposes. I've been smeared using phrases and things that I've said completely out of context and attributing meanings to them that I had never intended, and it's a way of censoring me. And I don't think there's anything more painful, for a lot of people, especially who've been, out there fighting for different causes, than to have a false accusation like that. I just want to say that I know. I'm very grateful for you saying that.
All right. Now, let's turn to government censorship. What's going on with this government censorship?
Well, the Judge Doty's decision, there's a federal judge in Louisiana. 2 attorney generals brought a case against the censorship by the White House. And by the way,
my husband has a companion one, full disclosure.
Okay.
Okay, yeah.
I have 3 of those lawsuits now. I was being censored by the Trump White House, too. This is not a partisan issue. One of the things that it says in this lawsuit is that I was the first one that was who was censored by the Biden White House. Biden came in on January 21st, 2021. On the 23rd, White House officials contacted Facebook and asked them to take my account down. And I lost my Instagram account, which is part of Facebook, 3 weeks later, 900,000 followers. There was no misinformation on that account. Every posting that I made was cited to a peer-reviewed publication or a government database. They had to invent a new word called malinformation. Malinformation is, and this is in the judge's decision, is information that is correct, is factually correct, but it is inconvenient or disapproved by the government.
So let's unpack this just a little bit and get a few things clear here. First of all, I mean, obviously, this whole thing about Israel and anti-Semitism, it's kind of starting to become too much of a headache. But let's be clear here. These words that RFK Jr. that he has said, well, they are questionable. Do not come off as any which way as the nightmare scenario that the Democratic Party or those that are critical of RFK Jr. are saying. However, his diehard support for the apartheid politics and policies of Israel are the big red flag, which is why I'm not supporting any Democratic candidate or participating in this Democratic primary, because let's face it, I just don't like the past way and the the path that the Democrats have chosen, that's all too familiar to the Republican Party and their stance on Israel as well. But again, can't, don't expect anything from the Democrats or Republicans in regards towards any kind of peace in the Middle East anytime soon. But in regards to the censorship and online censorship that we are seeing, and especially with the attacks from these organizations that want to remove RFK Jr. off the ballot, who are the individuals that are leading the charge the most? Now, to be fair here, if given the same opportunity, Republicans will do the exact same thing. There's a difference between Republican politicians and voters, okay? So I'm talking about Republican politicians, similar to Democratic politicians. They will do the exact same thing. And the Democrats, surprisingly, despite all their rhetoric, are the ones that are holding the banner of censorship, suppression, and removing, I guess, individuals, media outlets from the various social media platforms like YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, etc. And what's happening to RFK Jr. and to his social media accounts are something that we here at Hardlands Media are familiar with. Now, we've been hit not once, but 8 times by the YouTube censorship, and it's not good. It's a nightmare to deal with, and it's an everlasting headache. And a lot of our colleagues in independent media have been dealing with that too. But it's just not only progressive independent media outlets, it's libertarians, it's Greens, it's activists, it's organizers. Hell, it's free-thinking people who are always being put on the chopping block. And I think it's important for us to be very clear here that we have to preserve and protect the First Amendment, free speech, and also going one step further, we have to get money out of politics. This system is being rigged in a way that prevents you, the average citizen, from being part of it. But the sad truth is, we lost our voice when we gave our silent, obedient consent to corporate media and the politicians, and we have to get it back. Because for a long time, these politicians, these pundits, are used to us being sheep and being obedient. And that's something we have to break away from.
So many of the things that they were censoring were things that had nothing to do with COVID. They were censoring Hunter Biden's laptop. At one point, they were asked to censor a parody of the president and Jill Biden. This kind of stuff, and they were threatened.
Why is this happening? I mean, we haven't even gotten to AI. I won't talk to you about that tonight.
Yeah.
But the first, we have on our lap, this thing that's social media, which is wonderful in some ways, but in some ways, we now have these other issues. So, if elected president, what do you do or not do about any of these things?
I will immediately, the first day in office, order an end to all attempts by federal agents and federal agencies to censor the speech of Americans. Political speech shouldn't be censored. There's a lot of other things that we can do.
They could also oversaturate, too. The government could also, oversaturate with the other viewpoint, too, if it wanted to combat something that they thought was incorrect.
Well, I mean, and that's what, Judge Learned Hand said, is he said that the remedy for bad speech is not censorship, it's more speech, But we also don't want, the government should not be able to propagandize the American people. And this was that was the law until 2016. In 2016, President Obama signed an executive order that made it now at least provided a loophole that allows government agencies not only to censor Americans, but also to propagandize them. And that executive order needs to be withdrawn.
I was looking forward to this.
Now, we're going to stop here, and we need to address this about the Democrats and what Obama has done and the long-lasting effects of the Democratic Party. The Democratic Party managed to swindle and trick a lot of voters into thinking that they care about the social issues, that they care about individual rights. When we see the long-lasting impact of the Obama administration and also what the squad has failed to do and what Bernie Sanders has failed to do, what they have done is just get enough suckers to keep them in power. Like an abusive spouse, all what the Democrats are able to do is, I promise I won't hit you again. I promise I won't hit you again. Just support me. And then as soon as the Democratic voters give in their vote, the Democratic Party, the politicians, go right back to saying, I'm not going to help you. Don't fall out of line. Stay within the barrier. Don't think for yourself. Oh, I can't help you right now. It's not pragmatic. This is how the Democratic Party acts. And unfortunately, not enough people are waking up to the fact that the Democrats have been leading the charge for censorship. They've been leading the charge of suppression, of free thinking. Now, again, Republican Party, they'll do the exact same thing. But it's the Democrats that are doing this. We need to be better. Now, again, RFK Jr. running a Democratic primary, his biggest problem is he's in a Democratic primary. I don't know what kind of party he wants to reinstate and rebuild, because that said party never existed. And on top of that as well, let's pull up this little lovely title. RFK Jr. says corporate media has attacked him even more than Trump, to which I have to say, first time? See, what RFK Jr. is doing, running a Democratic primary, he's doing the big no-no. You don't challenge the Democratic establishment. Now, again, to the most diehard RFK Jr. supporters, look, the game is rigged. And let's say Biden isn't even capable of continuing on in 2024. Let's just say he drops out. The DNC is going to pick another establishment hack. That's going to be their person. And even in the off chance, and this has been reported, even in the off chance that RFK Jr. were to win, let's say, the nomination, the DNC has within its legal rights to dismiss what the voters voted for and still pick their own candidate. The DNC is a private organization. So if they pull that off, every single RFK Jr. supporter should not support the Democratic Party, because that's what they're going to do. Just a heads up. RFK Jr. Said Sunday that he's being attacked by the mainstream media an unprecedented way that rivals and even goes beyond the way that former President Trump has been scrutinized. Plus, again, also, look, you're probably going to get more attacked than Bernie Sanders, because let's face it, in comparison towards pushing back against the Democrats, I think he's pushed the DNC far more than what Bernie Sanders would ever be capable of doing. Again, he goes on to say, it's interesting to me because I've been really, slammed in a way that I think is unprecedented, even more than President Trump was slammed by the mainstream media, by the corporate media. Again, good luck. Good luck in participating in this election. They don't want him. And sooner or later, a lot of voters need to wake up to the fact that if you want to make any kind of changes, being part of the Democratic Party is not the case. And to anyone that's supporting RFK Jr., you're going to need to redouble your efforts if you want to secure him on the ballot, because there are organizations out there reaching out to voters, telling them to make sure to help them keep him off the ballot. This is not how a republic should operate. This is not how a democracy should operate. And this is a big concern. So what's the big takeaway from this? Don't participate in the Democratic Party. And if you really want to make a difference, support independents and support third parties. That's a fight. That's something that's worth your time and energy into, because anything associated with the Democratic Party is a big waste of time.